630 KHOW, an iHeart radio station.
Welcome back to the 5th Ready Colorado gubernatorial town hall. We are talking to the leading Republican gubernatorial candidates. I'm Ross Kaminsky. For those of you joining us by phone who don't know me, you might try listening to me every weekday morning here on 630 KHOW from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. I'm going to ask Tom a couple questions and plead with Tom to give me sort of short answers, and then we're going to try to get in as many phone calls as we can. So the first thing I want to ask you about...
Can I interrupt for just a second and say that I hope we don't leave this education issue alone, because we didn't really talk about the voucher initiative and what vouchers mean to a lot of people and choice. I know that it's fallen into some disrepute now, the whole concept, but there are really important aspects of this that we should discuss. And
why don't we do 45 seconds on it right now? I know it deserves more. We got a ton to get through in 14 minutes.
But I mean, it was, education. You told me this.
Yes.
All right. So I did put it on the ballot in 92. And one of the things I put into the initiative was one part that said the state of Colorado cannot use this in order to increase regulation over any private school, okay? Because I know everybody was worried about that. That in fact, when the dollars flow, so do controls. I totally understand that. So I tried my best to stop it. Now, it may not be perfect. I mean, certainly they would try to get around it, I'm sure. But the reality is that the concept is what I want to talk about, the concept of choice. Whether you use vouchers or tax credits or any of the other iterations of choice that have come out. It is absolutely imperative, and I'll tell you why. It's because the idea of choice has no inherent value except for the fact that it allows you to pick what is best for your kid. Now, what does that mean? It means a better curriculum. And honestly, this is what I have found after many years in this field. I was the regional director for the Department of Education for Reagan and Bush. I taught. I did the Independence Institute. It was almost all on education, okay? And what I know is this, Ross. The thing that creates a quality education is the curriculum. It is absolutely the curriculum. And so the choice is the only thing about it is it gives you the chance to pick a curriculum that works for you. And in the competitive environment, I'll tell you, a solid curriculum, a Hillsdale College type of curriculum at the high school level, that works.
Look, competition makes everybody better, makes everything better.
Absolutely.
So I want to ask you about infrastructure. Someone asked me the other day, Ross, what do you think is going to be, what will be the biggest issue in the governor's race? And I said, I'm thinking transportation and infrastructure, followed maybe pretty closely by housing prices, and in short, anything that relates to the growth of Colorado. So obviously, we've got some big issues right now regarding infrastructure, roads, and all that. Quickly, what are your thoughts? And a specific question I want you to answer. Do you think we can deal with our infrastructure issues in Colorado without raising taxes?
Yes, but we will probably have to raise more money. Now, it doesn't mean taxes, but I do believe we will have to come to the people with a bond issue, with asking them to increase it, because you can take a lot of money out of the general fund and focus it on roads, which they haven't done, right?
Right.
We know that.
Yeah.
But it won't solve the problem. And it won't solve the problem because we've been so many years at avoiding it. And the reason why we've done it, Colorado, Denver, Colorado Springs, cities don't want you on the road. They want you to change your lifestyle. And in order to do that, they know that they're going to have to make it more and more and more difficult for you to do what you want to do. That is, get in a car and drive to where you want to go. If that becomes so incredibly difficult and so angst-filled that you think, okay, I'll take light rail or ride my bike or some damn thing like that, then that fits their political agenda, right? And so they've ignored roads. But we have to refocus in Colorado on roads, not, quote, transportation.
Right.
Roads. That's what I want. Look, you can tell me all I want
paths,
to.
Tom? We don't need more bike paths right now in Colorado?
No, we don't need any more
bike
bike paths. And I'll tell you, and so, because you know what you may want me to do, I appreciate the fact that you think I am ruining the environment, polluting the world because I want to drive my car from point A to point B. Tough. That's what I want to do. And don't try to manage my life. We get back to that issue of the government controlling every little aspect of your life.
All right, let's go through as many phone calls as we can get to right now. I'm just going to go straight down the line here. We'll start with Brandon. Good evening, Brandon. You're on. What's your question for Tom Tancredo? Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, so I've been very active with the public land issues here in western Colorado the last 5-10 years. We've experienced a lot of road closures, mining issues, grazing issues, water right issues, you name it. And I may be overly informed on this issue a little bit, but basically it's my opinion that the federal lands are managed like a federal enclave.
Yeah.
And my question is pertaining to the state and our sheriffs, specifically our sheriffs. I helped Senator Lambert a year or two ago.
So, Brandon, just get to your question, please, in the interest of time.
So most of the public lands in Colorado, 24 million acres, are held in a proprietary interest only. But the federal government manages them like they have exclusive jurisdiction.
That's
right. What
right.
can you do to help educate our sheriffs regarding their police jurisdiction on these public lands?
Oh, man. Well, that is quite a question. And I will tell you that the one thing that we know for sure is that the government management, and especially the federal government management of our public lands, has been quite disastrous. And it has been disastrous because they don't actually care about the health of the forest. They care about preserving it, stopping fires and all that sort of thing. That's really not creating a healthy forest. As a result, when you do get a fire, you get a catastrophe because you've got so much old growth, you've got so much material there that creates the hottest, worst fires around. So it has not worked. It's not working. That's one thing you bring to the attention of the sheriffs and, of course, to the state legislature and to the federal government. There is this thing called the 10th Amendment. I know most people don't even know we have a constitution, but in fact we do. And on top of it, we have 10 amendments. And the last one is the most important, I think, in a way, and that is that any right not given to the federal government in this document is left to the states and the people. I would argue that we have a greater role to play. The state of Colorado has a greater role to play in the management of our forests here than is presently being allowed. And that process of education, if you will, hopefully gets to the sheriffs because you're right. They do have a role in this too. But people have to understand, the minute you start talking about it, they think, oh, he's going to sell off Yosemite, or so. No. I'm talking about better management of our public lands. And that will come about only as a result of having greater state input.
I have a question by Twitter, Tom. Person wants to know, it looks in 1999 you cast a vote on a gun control thing that looks like it was sort of along towards gun control. Yeah. They want to know how you feel about gun control now, and if any of these anti-gun bills that were passed a few years back are things that you would look to overturn as governor.
Believe me, if the repeal of those bills reached my desk, I would sign them. It is certainly true that in time we learn a lot of things, and with age we learn things. I've been attacked because I'm probably the oldest guy in the campaign. In fact, last night we had a discussion about that at one of the forums for all the Republican candidates, and I was attacked. And I said, "Hey, I am the oldest, but don't worry, I will not use my opponent's youth and inexperience against them."
Very clever.
Okay, so and you do learn a lot of things. And one of the things I have learned, and I admit to you, it was my first year in Congress. It was directly after Columbine. It was in my district. Columbine was my district. My relative, my neighbors, my friends who had kids harmed both physically and mentally by what happened there. And it was an emotional thing. It is true. But what you do learn is that there is no way, if somebody could show me that there is a law that you could put in place that could eliminate all of these horrible events, I'd do it even thinking, well, I know there's some restriction on guns. No, but there isn't. There isn't. Yeah. And that's what we've learned. I take around with me a Denver Post headline the day after the event in New York City, where the car went up on the truck guy
Couple
drove
of weeks ago, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I announced on the day after that happened, and the Denver Post had a headline that said, "Truck attack kills 8." Truck attack? What are you? Truck attack? So a truck got up that morning and said, "Man, I'm sick of this traffic in New York City. I'm going up on the sidewalk. I'm going to kill." No, it's not a truck. It was a terrorist. The press doesn't even want to talk about that. When you say things like gun violence, doesn't exist. No, it doesn't. There's no such thing as gun violence. Guns don't commit violence. Only people.
Are you saying that if you were back facing that vote again, knowing what you know now,
I'd say
you'd vote differently?
I would.
Okay,
yeah.
let's get a couple more calls, and we only have about 5 minutes. Let's go to Terry. Hello, Terry. You're on. What's your question for Tom Tancredo?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me tonight, Mr. Tancredo.
Sir, ma'am.
I heard you. Sir, thank you. I heard you were caught employing illegal immigrants working at your house.
Yeah,
when you were
wrong.
in Congress.
Wrong.
Why should I trust you?
Yeah, because
if
it's
you say one thing
not
and do
true.
the other.
Because it's not true. No matter how much you'd like to consider that as a fact, because the Denver Post reported it, it was simply untrue. I hired. All right, here let's go back and talk
All right,
about
do
that.
this quick because it's not a. This is
Okay.
kind of a waste of our time. I think.
All right.
Bottom. You know what? I don't even want you to bother with it. You're saying it's not true.
Not true.
Okay,
Absolutely not.
let's
I
just move
hired
on.
no one as an illegal alien in my, and I don't believe anybody did. It was a.
You hired probably a contractor?
I hired a contractor,
Yeah.
and the contractor, by the way, said all of his employees were legal.
Okay.
When we went to the Denver Post and said, "Who are these people that are claiming that?" they would not give me their names. It was you really believe that 2 illegal aliens knocked at the door of the Denver Post and said, "Hey, I'm here illegally, and by the way, I've given my employer false information, which makes it a felony, but I want to tell you I worked on Tom Tancredo's house."
Right. Okay.
No, baloney.
Let's
not
move
true.
on. Let's
Not
move on.
true.
Hey,
I never
Roger,
did.
you're on. What's your question for Tom Tancredo? All right, Roger. I think Roger wanted to ask you because we know when you ran for governor last time you had to switch parties and that whole kind of mess. And when did you get back into the Republican Party?
Probably 3 months ago, 4 months ago. I can't remember. It was relatively recent. And the reality is that if you're going to run for Congress, if you're going to run for anything, and you expect to win, try to win anyway, you have to be in a party.
Let's go to another call here. How about Steve? Hey, Steve, you're up. What's your question for Tom Tancredo?
Yeah, Tom, my question is, where do you stand with our president as far as the wall and doing some of this vetting and stopping pretty much all immigration for a period of time until we get this thing under control?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Steve. So there's sort of 2 questions.
Yeah.
One I think you already answered. You want to reduce legal and illegal immigration. What about the wall?
Absolutely. But I will tell you, it's not the answer.
Right.
It's a good sort of symbol, and it can help certain areas, but it's not the answer. The answer is mandated E-Verify. Every single employer in this country should have to make sure that the employees they are hiring have legitimate Social Security numbers. If we do that, it solves so much of this problem.
Yeah.
And we don't have to be rounding people up, and we don't have to be, building huge. I mean, I'm all for the wall, but I'm telling you there's a better way to handle it, and it is E-Verify. And you have to not just pass it, you have to enforce it.
So, folks, I think this is all the time we're going to have for calls. But you know what? If you want to shoot me an email, those of you who are still waiting to ask Tom a question, you shoot me an email, ross@khow.com. I'll put the questions together. I'll send them to Tom. We'll get you some answers, and I'll send you the answers. Is that fine with you?
Absolutely.
Tom, we got just under 2 minutes left.
Wow.
I'd like to give
Does
you...
time go by when you're having a good time?
I know. When you're with me, it's always
it
it's
does,
always
it's
fun.
exactly,
I'd
Russ.
like you to take a minute or so to give the elevator pitch why Republicans in the primary and everybody in the general should vote for Tom Tancredo. You've got about a minute.
I have not a typical Republican, that's for sure. There's no way that I'm going to try and make that case. I'm not. I am not an establishment Republican. I have argued with the Republican Party on a lot of issues, especially immigration. I don't care that much about parties. They're not that important to me. I'll tell you what matters to me. The Constitution. It is, if I have to take a loyalty oath, it's to the Constitution. When I, in Congress or any time I have stood up and been elected to office, I take that oath. And I don't take it to a party, and I don't take it to a president. I take it to the Constitution. It is my Bible. And I will tell you, as governor of this state, there are things that a governor can do to enhance the value and the understanding of the Constitution, and they really rely on that 10th Amendment I mentioned earlier. It is the power not given to the federal government in the Constitution is given to the people and the states. And believe me, we have to start exercising that.
Thank you, Tom Tancredo. I appreciate your being here. I especially appreciate your closing on a note about the Constitution. Don't hear nearly enough of that around this country, I would say. Thank you very much for listening to the 5th Ready, Colorado Gubernatorial Town Hall this evening with Tom Tancredo. If you'd like to learn more about Ready, Colorado, go to facebook.com/ReadyCOLO. Thanks again to all of you for being here. Check out my show weekday mornings here on 630 KHOW.